my main motto that I pretty much have to go back to every day is winners never quit, quitters never win. It's to never give up. I mean, nobody that's winning or on top or, nobody that is doing good quits. I mean, once it gets hard, you just got to keep going, keep pushing through. I mean, everybody has hard times. It's just what you learn from your hard times.
You are now tuning in to the Roughnecks podcast with your host, Cole Nixon. Much love.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Roughnecks podcast. This is episode 56. And before we dive into this episode, I want to say thank you to everyone who made a purchase for the fall sale. Just got a text. Today is Wednesday, but this episode comes out today's Tuesday, and this episode comes out on Thursday. Just got a text that all of the shirts are done, so the orders will be getting out here soon. I still do have the smaller items for my YouTube watchers, the hats. I still have some hats, the wristbands, koozies, still have those for sale. If you want something like that, shoot me a message on social media or email me at roughneckspodcast@gmail.com, and I'll get it out to you. The shirts and stuff, you may have to wait. I only make a certain amount at the times of the sales. But if I have enough people who want shirts, I'll put in another order to my shirt girl. But new month, new topic, and continuing with this topic of hard work, I have someone joining me today that has worked his ass off to get where he is today. Kyle Chaney, welcome to the Roughnecks podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I really appreciate you coming on. This has been a long time in the making. Finally, actually ended up connecting with you in Pataskala and then getting you on. And I messaged you a long time ago and you didn't even see it, which happens every day to me. So it doesn't matter. But I'm really glad that I finally able to get you on because, the hometown thing and just where you've been and how you've came up, it's very impressive.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I know it was going to be hard getting on with you. I know we had a 6:30 scheduled today, but I'm sure you know what I was doing. I had a buck I was hunting, so.
Yeah, I was actually sitting there and I almost went out today and I was like, I know what's going to happen because I got off work early. I was like, I know what's going to happen is today would be the day that I get it. And then all of a sudden I'd be like, crap, no, I can't record. So, but if you'd have got anything, I'd have been like, no, that's fine. I understand 100%.
Oh, I would have came back. I'd have let him expire and then come back and do shit with you and then go back out after him. But no, I mean, I've been after him pretty hard. He's actually been showing up in daylight, but I didn't see nothing today. I've seen him the last 4 days, and then today I didn't see nothing. So it's kind of a waste of time.
Yeah, we're going to get into the hunting side of things because that's something that we have in common. But first, I like to allow my guests to give a background on themselves. So tell the Roughnecks listeners who Kyle Chaney is.
Hey, my name's Kyle Chaney. I am a professional off-road racer. I race for Factory Can-Am. I've been racing with Can-Am for 10 years now, so over a decade. And I race a Pro 4 in the Champ Series.
So first thing we are going to talk about is the hunting side of things. And because we do have that in common, that's something that we both like to do. But you're a big hunter, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, so like if I'm not racing, I spend, I'd like to say 100% of my effort on racing. But when I'm not racing, I'm spending 100% of my effort on hunting. So in like the last, 7-8 years, I usually have a target buck I'm going after. That I usually watch from years prior, now, hunting is so advanced, you have trail cameras that send pictures right to your phone instantly. So, you can almost monitor these deer, year round, which I do. I have 10 to 12 different spots that I keep cameras on year round. And, I watch these deer and watch them from a young age. Actually, the deer I shot 2 years ago, we've been watching him for about 6 to 7 years. He was 8.5-year-old deer. And we knew he was going to be something really good. And last year, 2 years ago, I ended up harvesting him at 8.5. And then the deer I shot last year, watched him for 4.5 years and decided to hunt him last year. We figured it was his biggest year. And I ended up getting him also. But this year, it's kind of like an off year. A lot of my up and comers, I always watch the deer between 2.5 to 4.5 are the most vulnerable age of getting killed. That's when they're they're horny and they're running around with chickens with their heads cut off. So I like keeping my deer I like to say my deer. They're not my deer, but because they're not pinned. They're all free range, but I like saying my deer because I feed them, I give them mineral. Like, one of the deers a couple of years ago was injured, and I just keep pumping him full of protein, and, he'd come to it every day. I could have shot him if I wanted, but I wanted him to make another couple of years. So, we keep an eye on these deer all year round. So, but anyway, last year, all my up and comers got shot, every single one. Shotgun season last year, we had a cold spell opening day, and almost all my up and comers got shot opening day of shotgun last year. So I didn't have anything to hunt this year. I've been looking for deer, and one showed up like a week and a half ago. So I've been hunting hard for him, and he's a monster. So hopefully I can get him and put some pictures up on my Instagram for you guys to see. But he's going to be tough to kill for sure, especially now. They're kind of in that October lull where they're kind of off feeding, and when they do feed, now they're going to feed at night. So it's almost got to wait till rut now.
Yeah, I know. That's one thing, because I've been out and like I'm seeing them, but I'm not seeing the one that I want to see. But I like how you said my deer. I do the exact same thing. I think that's something like once you really get into it, you start like doing all the preparation and like actually putting the time in. It does feel like your deer. And like the property I hunt, it's my brother-in-laws and sisters, but my family hunts it too, but I always say that's my deer. And they're like, well, if we shoot, and I'm like, yeah, you guys, I mean, I'm not going to tell you can't shoot it. I'd want somebody to shoot it, but I'm the one who does all the work, takes the time. But once you put in that work too, I realized like a lot of my friends, and when I was younger, I didn't like put in the time feeding and like doing trail cameras, doing everything you had to do. And, I wasn't seeing as many deer. And then all of a sudden the past couple of years, I've really started to put in the work, and it's crazy what a difference it makes.
Yeah, no, it is crazy. The more work you put in, the bigger deer you'll shoot. And like I haven't shot bigger deer every year, but now I pretty much have like some people shoot a 1-year-old and they're happy with it. Some people shoot a doe, they're happy. When I started out hunting, that's how I was. I just enjoyed hunting. Now, I can't do it. Like now I have to have a deer that I think is at least 5.5 years old for me to hunt. I want them to be mature. They're by far the hardest deer to hunt. Especially I do all my hunting with a bow. It's just, I do like the challenge, and, I like watching the deer grow up. I like, having trail camera pictures of them, from a spike all the way up to a 200-inch deer. So, it's really awesome to watch like a deer like evolve or like, grow up, through the years. It's amazing. They go out and try to find their shed antlers, like you said, the more time you put in, the bigger deer you can shoot, and you have to pass on them 140s, 150s, even 160s sometimes if you want to shoot a booner, so it's definitely tough. Once you start shooting bigger deer, like you just want bigger and bigger and bigger and older and older and older. And, it definitely gets tough, and, picking, there's not just booner deer in every woods. So it definitely makes it tough.
Yeah, because like I remember last year, I have 8 points, 10 points walking in this year that I would have 100% shot last year. But since I got my buck last year, I'm like, now I want to go bigger. Like these I want to let grow. Like in a couple of years, yeah, they might get shot, but right now they gotta wait. They get to wait their turn. But how old were you when you first got into hunting?
So actually, my buddy Jet, I was late. I did a lot of fishing and stuff younger, but my dad was never a hunter, and no one in my family really was. So I didn't really get into it. But my buddy took me once when I was 16. Gave me a crossbow and sat me on the ground, and a couple does walked out, and I didn't shoot any of them. I shot at one and missed, but like just that experience was awesome, just like the does. And then, I started hunting my grandpa's property, and I shot a button buck, my first buck. It was a button buck, and it's crazy to think now, the deer that I do shoot, but I just remember that adrenaline you get from it. And it's like, I only get that adrenaline sometimes, and it's it's only at some races and some stuff. I mean, the Pro 4 definitely gives me that adrenaline, but like having even a small buck, like I said, depends on what you're after. Like right now, having a mature buck come in, it's crazy adrenaline. Like I don't even know if racing a Pro 4 could top it, but shooting a monster buck, or even having a deer within bow range of you, makes your adrenaline just skyrocket.
And it's one of those things, especially because I just got out of football last year, was my last year of football. And like, it's the closest thing. It probably, like you said, more adrenaline rush and like that like it's almost a competition. It's a competition against you and the deer, and it just gives you a rush that you don't get unless you like through athletics you get it, but that is just a whole different thing. And with football being over, it is the one of the, like it's the closest thing I can get to that, and it like gives me something to look forward to in a way.
Yeah, no, for sure. And people think like because they hit them with their cars every day, they're like, oh, I could go out and get a deer. I hit one with my car, last year. They're easy. They are not, especially if you want the older ones and you're after the mature bucks, like they are, born natural surviving machines. They are probably one of mature whitetails, probably one of the most toughest animals to hunt. I mean, they have an incredible sense of smell. I mean, if you intrude their area, like if just walk through it more than once, like they become nocturnal. Like, they know that what you're there to do, and people just think, oh, you can just throw a corn pile out. And no, I mean, yeah, you can get some deer coming into it, but mature buck is going to go downwind of that corn pile. Yeah, you can shoot them off them every now and then, but like I said, they are a surviving machine. And even when you shoot them, like if you don't make a good shot, like they will live. I mean, they will live with, missing legs. I've seen deer, live with, shots that I thought were they were only going to go 100 yards and die. Actually, the deer that I'm hunting right now got hit by a car and has a broken hip. And he can still run. Like I've watched him run. I mean, he has trouble getting around, but like, when he's scared, like he still runs. Like these things are insane. Like I want to kill him. That way I can, really look at him and, see how hard he was hit, but he was hit very hard. I mean, it was hard enough that it messed up the rack on the other side. Usually when a deer is injured on one side, it messes up the rack on the other side. They usually have an abnormal rack. And this deer's, he was hit hard. I don't know by what, but it was definitely a vehicle.
Yeah, it's crazy too, because people think that it's so easy, but like the one thing that I learned and that I've always said, there's a reason they've lived so long. There's a reason they're so old and so big. Like it's because they have that survival sense and continue to live. But are you a morning or evening hunt kind of guy?
Evening for sure. I mean, so like I hunt mornings in the rut, just because the deer are kind of sporadic. And usually during the rut I'll sit all day. I usually go in the mornings to kill midday. I've killed a lot of my mature deer midday because like during the rut, the big bucks kind of know that that's the time that the does are bedded down. Big bucks don't want to be chasing does around, and you've got your 2, 3, 4.5-year-old bucks just running like crazy during the morning and evenings. Well, they have to rest, so they rest midday, does bed down, big bucks get up, and then they start scent checking these beds for does. Like, they don't want to be chasing, so once they find a doe in heat, they'll kick all the other bucks off of her. They'll chase her around a little bit, they won't chase her, but she'll run, and then they'll breed her, and then they'll go on to the next. So I've killed a lot of my big deer midday, but usually like right now and in late season, I won't do a whole lot of morning hunts because you risk scaring the deer off the field, when you go in the mornings.
Yeah. And I learned that the lesson the hard way last year. I think I had something, I was at school, so all I could work was hunt was the weekends. And I was hunting a Saturday, hunted the morning during the rut, and then had something, I think, in the afternoon. So I got down, and then I think like an hour after I left the stand, like you see me walking past the trail camera, and then like an hour later, here comes a giant buck walking the other way. And I'm like, of course, that's the day I have something, because I wanted to stay out all day, but I just couldn't. And the rut is crazy. I haven't experienced a whole lot with the rut because I only got to really hunt. I only got into bow hunting last year, really. And I love it way more than gun now. But it's one of the rut's an insane time. And they're, like you said, they're sporadic, and you never know what's going to come through when.
No, there's really no better time to be in the woods than rut. It's fall, the leaves are coming off the trees. It's cool. Like, the weather's cold. Like, it's really nice. Like, I love hunting the rut. And, it's so peaceful for me because, I race all year. Like, since February until now, I've been home like a total of 2 weeks. Like, I've been living out of my RV, at different races at different people's houses. Like, I have not been home, like just going nonstop. and like just sitting in the woods, like is just so relaxing to me. I love it, especially during the rut, sitting all day, not knowing what could come by. Like usually like, around now, like you kind of know what's in the woods and what's, going to come, you kind of know their schedule, but come rut, like you never know. I mean, you can just be sitting there and there could be nothing going on for hours. And then the next second the woods just explodes and there's deer everywhere. Like it's an amazing time of year.
Have you ever gone on other hunts other than just hunting whitetail here in Ohio?
So the thing is like, I like doing whatever I do, like 100%. Like I give it my all. And I like, like I said, I like watching the deer grow up. I like doing it. So I've never really went anywhere else and hunt. I've had the opportunities, definitely. And I have a few times. I went to Missouri and hunted with my buddy, and I went to Indiana and hunted with a buddy. But like, I've been invited on so many hunting trips, like to deer ranches and stuff where, they say, hey, this is where this deer's been coming in, you pay them $1,000 and they set you up in a tree stand and lodge you. I don't know. I just can't do it. I mean, I know a lot of people that do, and it is a good time, but I don't know. It's just not for me. The only hunt I really ever did do was Can-Am took me on a hunt. It was for like one of their photo video shoots that they were doing for one of the utility units. And we went to South Dakota and hunted. Actually, it was a buffalo. But it was a fun experience. It was a fun time. The buffaloes are huge. They're way bigger than you think, but I mean, it was fun, but it's not something that I don't think I would do, without, them, covering it or, doing.
Exactly. All right. But I got to ask, cause I'll put a couple pictures on the screen for the YouTube of some of your deer.
This was YG. He's not mounted yet because his cape is still getting done, but every buck in here was shot with a bow. I do a lot of bow hunting. So when I'm not racing in, the 9 months that I race out of, I am in the woods deer hunting. So that's what I love to do. So if I'm not racing, I'm deer hunting. Even when I'm racing, I'm still thinking about deer hunting. So these were like all my early stage deer. Like I started deer hunting when I was 16. And ever since then, it's kind of been like a passion. And then these are my last year's deer. As you can tell, they get bigger. My passion grows, and the bigger ones are harder to get. So it takes a lot more time and effort to shoot a big mature buck every year. So I like putting in the time. I could go out and probably shoot a deer anytime I go out, but to shoot, I usually I run about 10 to 15 trail cameras a year, and like 10 or 15 different spots, and then I find one buck that I want to target and go after, and then I'll just focus all my time on one deer. So sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes someone else gets them. So, and it does, it's pretty sad, but it's even sad when I shoot them too, because after I get it, it's like the chase is done, it's over with, and it's just I don't know, it's almost like it's just a sad feeling, but the adrenaline you get from harvesting an animal that you put so much time and effort in is definitely rewarding.
Which one's your favorite that you have so far? Your favorite kill?
So
that's a hard decision. I have a lot of deer
that I put a lot of time in for, but I would say Cell Tower from 2 years ago was probably the. So I'll tell you a couple different stories. So Cell Tower was 2 years ago. He's got like a 26 inside spread. Like, he would have been a 190-inch deer, which is really big. When I shot him the first time, I actually shot him in October. And so this is how strong deer are. I shot him in October from 55 yards, and the broadhead hit his shoulder and bounced off. Mm-hmm. The arrow bounced back towards me. I'm like, you have got to be kidding. He ran away, and I had pictures of him the next night. I'm like, that is crazy. But he broke off like 7 inches of antler during the rut. And I ended up shooting him late season, but I've never put in any more time for a deer. Like, that was a 8.5-year-old deer. We know he was 8.5. We've been watching him for a long time. A bunch of people were hunting him. I mean, he was definitely a known deer. But I hunted them almost every day I could, with the wind. You got, like I said, a deer like that, you can't hunt them on bad winds. But I hunted them almost every day I could. We put in years of work for this deer. I didn't hunt him, until that year. So yeah, that was probably my most memorable deer. Last year, the deer I shot, it was just a freak story. I shoot him. It's snowing. I shoot him in the snow. It's like another long shot, like 60 yards. I think it's a really good shot, but is in the evening. And, if you don't know for sure, you back out. And so I backed out and waited till morning. Well, we got 4 inches of snow that night. So we went out and started tracking him. Of course, we can't find any tracks or any blood because, there's 4 inches of snow. So my buddy ended up finding some blood. And this deer, like when I shot him, like he ended up coming upwind. I mean, I could smell him. Like he had just got done rutting. Like he's super, like it was the 1st of December. Like he was, I don't know if he was like in second rut, but he smelled. Well, we went over to the bed that he found blood in, and I smelled him. Like, that's not the deer I shot. No way. I'm like, I already know there's no possible way that's the deer I shot. And he's like, man, there's blood. And he started following that blood trail. I'm like, it's not it. So I just started gritting the area, and he kept following the blood trail. And I just kept gritting, and then he started finding more and more blood. Well, he drew me off my gut instinct, and I started following the blood trail he was on. Well, we followed it for like 4 miles, and finally we just gave up and backed out. And I ended up going to California for a race, to Texas for a race. And when I'm in Texas, I just got this feeling. I'm like, I need to go back to where we last found blood and look for this deer again. Like, I know he's dead. I know my shot was good. So I got back from Texas. This was 2 weeks later. I walk in the woods. I'm walking like, the 4 miles we went was like zigzaggy. So I'm like walking directly, like a straight line, and this woods is huge. I mean, it's probably 1,000 acres, huge. Mm-hmm. So I'm literally walking a beeline to where we found the last blood. I trip over my deer. Like, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. In the thickest stuff, like I double lunged him, crazy that coyotes hadn't got to him yet. He was still totally intact. Crazy story. Like, so we must have been following a deer somebody else shot or something. Like I said, I already knew it wasn't him, but I was just happy I found my deer. But it was just that gut instinct. Like, I knew he was dead. I knew my shot was good. But that's one of my crazier deer hunting stories.
Well, you had to just or was it last year that you had to pull the one out of the creek or the river or whatever? Was that?
Well, so that was funny story there. So we have to use the property I hunt crosses a river, and you either have to go all the way down to the railroad tracks to get across, or you can use kayak. Well, we used a kayak, and I thought it was a good idea to put both of us in a kayak. And the river was raging, and it was probably 16 foot deep, and it's 40, 50 yards wide. Well, we fell in, and it was snowing, and it was cold, and he fell in, and I looked at my buddy, and he looked like he was gonna die. Like, it was like, I felt bad, but I'm not gonna let you die. But the look on his face was like, this is it. Like, we're done. Like, because you couldn't breathe, and we're in heavy stuff, and like the current's trying to suck you in. Like, we're only freaking 5 feet from shore. I'm like, just swim a little bit. Like, we can get to shore, but we couldn't talk because we fell in so fast. The water was so cold. Like, couldn't breathe, and you couldn't talk. But anyway, we used the raft to get it back across the river. But that was the year before. It was that same spot, which is really unusual for me to shoot 2 deer in the same spot. At least back-to-back years, because usually you don't have 2 shooter deer in one spot back-to-back years.
But we'll get into the oh wait, one more question on the bow. What is your bow setup? What do you have?
So my buddy does a lot of the pictures and stuff for Hoyt, so he got me hooked up with Hoyt a couple years ago. So I get their new bow every year. And they just sent me the RX5, but I'm still shooting my RX4, and I haven't even set up my RX5 because, like I said, the deer that I'm hunting, he was usually coming out in the same spot, and I can shoot my RX4 100 yards and hit a pie plate. So he's been coming out, like, the closest I can really get to him without scaring him is like 80, which I'm so comfortable at 80 yards with my RX4 that I haven't even tried to set up my RX5, but it's an 80-pound RX4.
All right, but now we'll get into the side-by-side things. when did all the side-by-side racing, when did all that start?
Man, well, I raced dirt bikes as a kid. My dad got me into racing dirt bikes, and we got picked up by KTM, like their amateur program, racing off-road, when I was 12, no, probably 13, 14, 15. And then I tore my ACL when I was 16. We won some amateur championships, and we're starting to move towards the pro ranks. And I tore my ACL practicing. This was kind of while we were racing my first year as an A rider, as a pro. So I kind of had to take some time off for that. And then I just kind of kept injuring my knees. Like I ended up having 5 knee surgeries after that. And, I loved racing. I didn't really play many school sports because I wish I would have now, but because of racing, it took up so much time. And, as a kid, I'm sure growing up, everybody wants to be a professional football player when they're a kid, or professional basketball player, or whatever. So that's what I wanted to do. I watched the guys making money at it. I wanted to be them. And, as like a young teenager, like I felt like I was good enough. My parents felt like I was good enough. My sponsors felt like I was good enough. Well, then I started getting hurt, and I just couldn't keep my knees good. Like I'd have a surgery on one knee, and then I'd like overcompensate on my other knee, and then I just end up tearing it. And right now both my knees are torn, but I just deal with it. I just kind of, it wasn't even worth getting them fixed anymore. Just cartilage buildup around them is enough. I just don't play basketball or anything like twisting sports. But so that's kind of how it all started. I still was racing dirt bikes until like 23, and I just knew I wasn't going to make it. Like I was good, but I wasn't that good. And I still had the drive though. I knew there was something more. I knew there was more than, me going doing a 9-to-5 job, which, I'm not saying is a bad thing, but it wasn't for me.
It's not for everybody. That's what I've learned. And, people expect when you go to college, especially because I went to college, and they're like, you're supposed to go get a 9-to-5 after, but that's not for everybody. And
no, it really isn't. Yeah, no, it really isn't. And I knew back then it wasn't for me. I wanted to, I knew there was something that I could do, more. And I really liked racing, but I just knew, like, even at 23, like that's too old for dirt bikes. Like you're past your prime. Like, well, anyway, I ended up getting hurt again. And, so I didn't have, side by sides just started coming out. They've been racing them for a couple of years in the series that I was doing, and I didn't have the money to buy one at the time. But my grandma gave me a loan for a Can-Am Commander. She's like, if you get off those stupid dirt bikes, I'll give you a loan. I'm like, okay. So she gave me a loan, and I went to North Carolina and bought the first Can-Am Commander I could get a hold of. And like I said, I didn't know anything was going to come of it, really. I was just kind of doing it to heal myself, to stay racing for dirt bikes, because I still wanted to race dirt bikes. Well, me and my buddy go out for the first race, and we're doing really good. I felt like we were doing really good. And, this was a stock unit. Everybody else is out there and fully built race cars. We're racing against like Polaris National Guard team, like the factory Can-Am teams. Like there was probably at least 15 pro teams, that are sponsored by big names at the time. And we're just in a stock car. Like, it would almost be like taking a Toyota Camry out and racing in NASCAR. Like, I mean, not quite, but pretty close. And so anyway, we raced the pro class because that's what we wanted to do. And we never thought anything would come of it, but we ended up hitting a tree and breaking. But like, man, that was really fun. So we go to the next round, and it's super muddy, super nasty. And me and my co-pilot, we take off, and we had no idea, but we're winning the race. Like after 4 laps, there are woods races. So this race is an hour long. They're like races through the woods, like through creeks, up hills, like I think this track was like 6 miles long. Well, anyway, like we're on the white flag lap, and we're winning. We have no idea we're winning. And so anyway, we're winning, and there's this guy that's on fire. Like his car caught on fire. So we stop. My co-pilot gets out, puts him out, puts the car out, because they couldn't get unbuckled and get to their fire extinguisher. So we got him put out. Like I said, if I knew we were winning, I don't know if we'd have stopped. Maybe we would have, maybe we wouldn't have. I don't know. But anyway, we got them put out and we take off, and we get to the finish line, and they had called the race the lap before because it was so muddy and the track was so bad that they couldn't even get people through the scoring chute anymore, because the ruts were so deep going into scoring that there was 30 people stuck and they couldn't even get into scoring. So we ended up winning that race, the overall out of everybody. Factory Can-Am comes to me on the podium, is talking to me, gets my number. The next week they call me and they're like, you want to race for Factory Can-Am the rest of the year? I'm like, well, yeah, that's awesome. So, and then we raced for their factory team the rest of that year. And that's pretty much when it started. And that was 2011.
It's been a long ride since then now, but how many side-by-sides do you own? Because you have a pretty sweet garage or barn. I think it's your garage right off your house that is loaded with some cool shit. How many do you currently have in your garage?
4 and a pro. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I'm building one for a customer. So if you count that, 5. I have customers that want race cars, so we build those too. But yeah, 5, including the one I'm building and a Defender that I use for hunting, and then I have a Pro 4, also the trucks in there too. But we usually sell our race cars at the end of every year. So I've already sold one. We sell them around this time once season's over, and then we'll start building new ones for the next season.
I was going to ask, what's the racing season like for you guys? So obviously you have a season. Is it similar to like what motocross is, where you have like a point system at each race, or is it, how is it set up?
Yeah. But it's a little bit, it is. Yes. So there are series like that. So like the Champ Off-Road series, where I race the Pro 4 and I race the side-by-side too. It's set up just like that. Just like motocross, you have a point system, but then there's also other races I do too that are like one-off events. Like there's a race in Oklahoma that's really big. King of Hammers is probably the biggest off-road event in the United States. And it's just a one-off event hosted by Ultra 4, and it's in California. And then I've been doing some races in Texas. And so I do like some one-off races too, just try to stay busy. But like my main focus is a series called Side by Side Sports Champ Off-Road, and of course King of Hammers.
So take me through the process of like a race, like a week where you have races. Like, what is your whole schedule like in a way?
Well, I guess I'll take you through a champ race weekend, where we race the Pro 4 and the side by side. So it's 2 different events, Saturday and Sunday. So you travel, you usually load in on Wednesdays. When I say load in, we get the trucks and everything in, get the awning set up, which is, a pretty long process. We have a big awning off the stacker trailer. We get everything out, get everything set up, kind of go through tech and everything on Thursday. Got to go through tech. They inspect all your safety stuff and make sure you're not cheating and all this stuff. So go through that on Thursday. And then Friday is usually practice and qualifying for all the events. So the side-by-side and the truck. And then Saturday, you go into racing. So you race the side-by-side and the Pro 4. And then Sunday, you do it again. You do race the side-by-side and the Pro 4. So you get a double header every weekend. But we pretty much bring enough parts to build a whole unit, like to one of those races. The trailer's packed full of about any part you could imagine that you could possibly need for the race weekend.
I forget what I was going to ask now. So how often do you practice, like when you're back at home? Like how much hard, like, because there is a lot of work that I think a lot of people just think you just show up and ride. And like, that's all that's to it. But how much hard work is it? Like, what's the training like to prepare for these races?
So the kind of funny thing about that is I don't do a whole lot of like practicing per se in the side-by-side or the truck. I mean, we do, a couple practice sessions, I maybe practice in the actual unit, maybe 5 times a year at most. The reason is because it's so hard to replicate like racing conditions or track conditions. Like Usually, like if we do practice, we go rent out one of the tracks, which is very expensive, and you got to travel there. So we mainly do that to get ready for the year. And then once the year starts, we usually don't practice at all. But it's because there's so much work that goes into it during the week. I mean, you pretty much don't have time to practice. You pretty much go from race to race to race to race. Like there's no time during the week to practice. By the time you get packed up Sunday night, when you're done with racing, you travel Monday maybe to the next round, or if you have a week in between, then maybe you go home, or maybe you stay at a shop that's close to the next track. You get there Monday night or Tuesday, you wash units all day. I mean, it takes all day to wash these things. We take every piece of plastic off, the side by side in the truck, so it's pretty much an all day process to wash. So then you're into Wednesday, and then like I said, sometimes you got to be back at another race. So you're already reloading to go do another race. And then you'll just prep the unit at the track. But a lot of times we have two weeks in between like the big events. So, you spend Wednesday, Thursday, Friday prepping, the side by side in the truck, or not prepping, but taking apart, seeing what's broken, what needs fixed. And then you order your parts Monday, Tuesday, some stuff you got to have overnighted, and then you're putting it back together the next week, and then you're at the race. So it's like, there's no time to test. But what I do is, I used to do, I'm 35 years old. So, I used to always be in the gym. I would not miss a day. Like, I used to do like a bunch of CrossFit stuff, cause I really enjoyed it. I'd do heavy lifting. I really enjoyed working out. Well, I have bad joints, like I said, my knees, and then, my wrist now. I broke my wrist racing dirt bikes. And it's just like the CrossFit just kind of, as good as it was for me, it was bad for me too, because it just took my joints and wore them out, like even worse than what they were. So what I've been doing the last couple of years is I've been mountain biking a lot. I do a lot of mountain biking, which kind of keeps like, your edge, like, since I'm not racing, everything's really fast, everything happens really fast. Well, I don't want to ride dirt bikes anymore because, for one, I don't want to, I don't want, you can get hurt riding a mountain bike too, but
I don't think your sponsor would be too happy.
Yeah, if I got hurt, I had probably, like I said, I have to make my house payment. So, but riding mountain bikes, it's really good workout. It's really good on your knees. Like, it's super fun. Like, we have a bunch of awesome mountain bike trails, here in Central Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Horns Hill, they just put like 50 grand into Horns Hill in Newark, and it is awesome. Like, it's by far the best like downhill park like in Ohio. So I mean, and it keeps me sharp too. So like, I don't, you can keep that good focus, on when you're mountain biking, you have to, stay agile and sharp. So I think it's really good for racing. So I don't necessarily practice, but I stay focused on what I have to do.
What is the furthest distance that you've had to travel for a race? Because obviously you have to drive to your races. What's the furthest distance that you've had?
So this race I talked about, it's called King of Hammers. It's in Johnson Valley, California, which is, I don't know, it's like a couple hours out of Los Angeles. And we travel out there like 2 to 3 times a year because we do test for that race. So we do go out and we practice. Like, you don't know the track when we go out. So I'll probably go out in December to pre-run, test new suspension stuff. Like I said, this race is huge. Like, it is by far the biggest race in the United States. So we spend a lot of time like getting ready for this one event. So I will drive back and forth to California 2 or 3 times just to practice, because King of Hammers is like, what I like about it so much is it's a little bit of everything. It's like a 300-mile race, like 100 and some miles is in the desert, and then like the rest of it's in the nastiest rocks that God put on this earth. Like, you pull up to these things and you would not believe that a side-by-side could go up or down these things. Like, there are drop-offs that are 20 feet straight down, like, and then some of them you got to go up, you have to winch up this drop-off. So it's like, it's really crazy. Like, if you can watch some of like King of Hammer videos like online,
I'll post one on the YouTube video. I'll put your little clip from the King of Hammers onto here.
King of Hammers is crazy. So that's what I like about King of Hammers, is because it's technical. It's a little bit of everything. You got to have pitch strategies involved. And like I said, we spend a lot of time, and Can-Am that's a really big event for them.
So you talked about your co-pilot. What exactly, take our listeners through kind of what your co-pilot does for you.
So a lot of the races I race now, we don't have a co-pilot, like the short course stuff. It's more like a shorter race on like a motocross track. Those we don't have a co-pilot, but like King of Hammers, we do have a navigator. So you're allowed 150 foot on each side of the march trail, which they'll give you. You have a GPS. It's pretty much like a fish finder in the car, and he has it in front of him, and he's telling you which way to go, which way the track is. So we have headsets on, and he's telling me left. Just kind of, I'm sure everybody's seen like in-car rally stuff. Pretty much the same thing, just navigating me through the desert and then the rock trails. And then once they usually give us the track map like a couple days before the race, so we'll go pre-run that track, and then he can put in markers like say, hey, there's a big nasty drop off to the right, stay left at this interchange or whatever. So it's just like, or like this whoop section's really nasty in the desert, make sure you stay right 100 feet. So like he's over there like reading this GPS screen the whole time, which I could not do. I mean, we're going through the desert at 100 mile an hour through 5 foot deep whoops, and he's holding onto the screen looking at it. I would puke. There's no way I could do it. I mean, my props are off to anybody that can co-pilot, but it's just not for me. But then they're also over there to help winch and moral support too. I mean, actually the first race, we did a desert race out there. So it's like, I raced 3 different events out there, like a desert race, like the rock race. And then I raced the side-by-side against the trucks, the 4,400 trucks. But anyway, the desert race was just like a 380 mile desert race. And you're not allowed to, we got a flat tire after one of the pits, and you're not allowed to turn around and come back. Like you have to go to the next pit, and we'd already used our spare, and we didn't get a spare in the pit because I'm like, I can make it. And I didn't like the way the car handled with the spare. So literally we get a flat right out of the pit. We weren't a mile out of the pit, and we have like 70 miles to the next pit. So we start going, and we have the lead at this point. And I'm like, man, we did like 30 miles, and it's a front flat. It's hard to drive. I'm trying to still go fast. And I'm like, dude, I think we're done. He's like, no, we can still win. You can still win. Keep going. Like, so he's there for like moral support too. Cause it's like, I was like, I hate quitting, and I'm not a quitter, but like, I'm like, we have a flat tire. Like, there's no possible way that we can make it 70 miles through the desert with this flat tire. No way. He's like, yes, we can. Yes, we can. And that was all it took, was him saying that a couple times. And we ended up making it, and then got a new tire, and came down to the last lap. It is a lap race too, and we ended up getting another rear flat, and we finished with a rear flat, but we ended up winning that race. So it's a good thing we stayed out there.
So I noticed on your story and on his story, recently you were with Travis Pastrana, weren't you?
Yeah, I did. That's actually what I was on the way back from the other day when we were supposed to do the podcast. We were up at ERX for the Nitro Rallycross. It's a rally series that Pastrana's has some ties with in the United States. Right now, I think they're going to go international next year. But so it's like a short course rally race that they called NRX, Nitro Rallycross. We were up there doing that, and actually Brian Deegan rented one of my side-by-sides for the race, and Travis Pastrana rented one of Scotty's side-by-sides for that race too. And there's also some other big names in the mix, Andrew Carlson, Tanner Faust. There were some other big names that raced the side-by-side that weekend too. We ended up winning the first day, and then the second day we had the pole position. We were fastest in the heat and qualifying, and then I got hit in the second corner, and it broke my rear knuckle. But Tanner Faust ended up winning. But actually, it was when me and Pastrana were in our heat together, and I was in front of him, and he was I was pulling away from him, and he was trying to catch me, and he ended up hitting the wall. He hit the concrete K wall, and he wrecked the car so bad that it took the motor and transmission and broke the motor and transmissions out. And the motor and transmission was sitting in there sideways. and it like tore his like a muscle in his shoulder. Like he hit hard. So yeah, he wasn't able to race anymore.
Yeah, I saw on his stories he posted pictures and said trying to keep up with Kyle Chaney, and I was like, wait a second, what?
Yeah, he hit the wall pretty hard. Yeah, he was done racing side by sides after that. Oh, he finished the weekend in the Subaru, and I think he won. Well, I'm pretty sure he won. Oh no, I think Scott Speed won, but I think he might have got second.
If anybody knows who Travis Pastrana is, if you're listening to this episode, then you know he's probably one of the craziest. From a kid, he was crazy and just did anything. But
Still
I want to,
great.
yeah, it's insane. But I want to ask you what your favorite win of all time is.
Oh.
I had asked what your favorite buck was. Now I got to ask you what your favorite win is.
So that's kind of you. So I won King of Hammers this year. And like I said, it's by far the biggest race in the United States. Like I get paid by far the most for that event. Like, and you would think that would be my favorite, but actually last year, 2020 at King of Hammers, I got second place that race. It's not a win, but that's probably my greatest, like that's my favorite. That was my favorite. I guess it's not a win, but favorite
like achievement podium. In a way.
Achievement, yeah. Because this year I was kind of like, well, I'll start last year. We were actually leading the race. We were leading King of Hammers, and we were dropped down over this big rock drop they call backdoor. Well, Scotty got out, was my co-pilot, and he hooked a strap onto the back of me. So when we went down, I wouldn't flip over forwards, and he saw oil on the bottom of my skid plate. So when he got back in, he's like, hey, you got oil on the bottom of your skid plate. And we're only 60 miles in at this point into like a 200 some mile race. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll get to the next pit, and every pit we'll just have them put oil in. Well, we're trying to radio the pit and tell them that, we need oil for the transmission. Well, we have no radio communication with the pits at all. And when you get to the pit, you can either pull in or you can bypass the pit. Well, the race bypasses the pit, but if you pull in, you have to do 25 mile an hour. So we're leading the race. We have to pull into the pit, and we're in such a hurry. We tell them to tell the next pit that we need oil. Well, at that point we get passed. So we're in second. It's super dusty, crazy dusty. Well, we're going through the dust. We're going up this huge rock hill, and I ended up hitting a rock in the dust and flipping the car on its side. And it's a mountain. We're on the side of a mountain. And anyway, me and Scotty are trying to get the car up. We can't get it uprighted. We use a jack to get it like a foot off the ground, and we finally get it up. Well, once we get it up, it's still in gear. I didn't put it in park, so it starts rolling down the hill backwards. And we had worked so hard to get this thing over. Like I could deadlift like 550 pounds at the time, and I bet I lifted 700. Like, I mean, I was gassed, and I'm like, I'm not letting this thing go. So I part of me wanted to jump in and put it in park, but I'm like, if I jump in, I'm not strapped in, and this thing rolls, like I'm probably going to roll to my death, because it is like, it's a mountain. I mean, and it would have been bad. So I'm like, I'm just going to try to slow it down. So I stayed outside of it and tried to slow it down. Well, it hit me, and it got my feet and my legs trapped between it and a big rock, and it hit me, and I went flying, and it ended up stopping in the trail. But it broke my foot, ripped both my shoes off. I didn't even know it broke my foot till I went to stand up, and I couldn't stand up. And this is all on video. Like, we have a helicopter flying right above us that has all this on video. So I'm like scooting to my car. I get in the car. At this point, I didn't know my foot was broke. I just knew something was wrong. Like, my shoes were gone. It totally like ruined my foot. Well, anyway, I get to the bottom of the hill. The power steering's out. I turn around, go back up the hill, get Scott. We ended up fixing the power steering. By this time, we're 20 to 30 minutes down. We're probably, we'd had a big lead, but we're probably back to 8th or 9th. And we ended up, we kept going. We never gave up, and we worked our way to second. At the end of the day, we worked our way back up to second, and we only lost by 2 minutes and 30 seconds. We made like almost 30 minutes. And since that day, all I thought about was winning that race every single day. Like, there wasn't one day since that day that I didn't think about winning that race. So pretty much I prepared myself all last year to win this year. And after I won this year, it's kind of like, I won, no big deal. I definitely don't like losing. Winning really doesn't mean that much to me. It's kind of the losing that does.
Oh, 100%. And like I've said on this podcast a lot, and I feel like this relates to you. Your losses will teach you more than your wins will. That one little, I mean, you got second, but it's the whole Ricky Bobby thing. If you ain't first, you're last. Like, and once it like that kind of fueled you for preparing, and then look what happens. You go and win it.
Yeah, like so we won everything at King of Hammers this year, but like I said, I haven't had, since I won now, I feel like I've almost lost it, because that's not like, I remember last year, that's all I thought about. It's what drove me last year. And now, it's not, but I have other stuff that's driving me now. I mean, we had a bad season. It wasn't because, we just had some bad races in champ this year, and, we're in the Pro 4 now. I feel like we're contending for podium spots every race. And, so now I have other stuff to drive me, but, nothing drives me like a loss, for sure.
Yeah. I want to ask you this. I have 3 questions that I like to ask all my guests. And my first one is, what are the goals of Kyle Chaney going forward?
Oh, man. Well, I'd like to say, I mean, I definitely, I want to win a Pro 4 championship, which is going to be very hard. This year I had no budget in Pro 4, and I'm going up against, Monster Energy teams, NOS Energy Drink, Red Bull, you name it. I'm going up against, probably 8 to 10 teams that have $1 million budgets, and I had nothing, and we still ended up, with some podium positions this year. And, I'm not to say anything, but I think, we'll end up with a title sponsor for next year for the Pro 4. I can't say anything as of right now, until the deal's done. But, I think next year in Pro 4 will be good. But no, I want to win a Pro 4 championship. I mean, that would be, and those guys, everybody in the Pro 4 is a 10 out of 10 driver. I mean, so that's my main goal right now, for sure, is the Pro 4. But, in the side-by-side, like I said, I've pretty much already done it. I mean, I've won pretty much every big championship or big race. Actually, I was supposed to go do the Baja 1000 this year, but it's during rut. So I kind of like, I'm kind of like over racing right now. That's my time to be in the woods. And, like I said, it doesn't mean nearly as much to me as being in a tree stand, because I feel like it's not something that I'd like to do the Baja 1000, but it's not like something that's on the top of my list right now. But like I said, I've already won most of everything I wanted to win in a side-by-side. Yeah, I want to keep winning. The competition's getting better. You've got young drivers coming in. So to keep winning, you got to stay sharp and keep after it. But, for the side-by-side, like I said, I don't really have any goals except to stay on top.
Yeah, you got to keep that balance though, because otherwise you start to almost go insane. Because being in the woods is almost therapeutic as someone like you. It's like you relax 100% in the woods. It's crazy what, sitting there watching the sun go down or going out in the morning watching the sun come up. It's very relaxing and it helps balance you, it'll get rid of some of that stress that you might have. But who is your biggest inspiration? I guess I should say who or what.
Oh man, I don't know. That is really a tough one. And I'm gonna have to think about this one for a second. Oh, yeah, I don't know. You kind of stumped me on that one. Man, I wish I had a comeback for that. I don't know. My biggest inspiration. Man, I'm at a loss.
That's good. I got
really
another question. That's one of my favorite questions. So we'll just move on to that one. But it's, if you could go back in time and tell your 16-year-old self one thing, what would it be?
Oh, I for sure know this one. It would be buy as much Bitcoin as you possibly can.
That is hilarious, because that is what we talked about at work today.
Nah, really?
Yes.
Oh man. as 16-year-old, I don't think they had Bitcoin then, but I would tell myself when Bitcoin comes out, empty your freaking piggy bank. I don't care if you got to go get a loan, buy as much freaking Bitcoin as you possibly can. That would be what I would tell myself. I mean, not really. I mean, I would, but like,
Yeah.
I would probably tell myself to be more outgoing. I'm not a people person. I am better now, but growing up, I never really went out. I didn't drink or do anything. I didn't go to bars, and I'm not saying it's bad. I do now, and I enjoy it. I didn't go to a whole lot of parties. I didn't hang out with a lot of people from school. I was too busy working on myself and what I thought was my career at the time, dirt bikes. So I was either in the gym or I was riding. We were riding dirt bikes every day, till dark, and then we get home and work on them. Like, that's just what I did, and that's what I wanted to do. But if I'd go back now, I'd go back and tell myself, to go out and party. It's okay to drink a little bit. You don't have to get plastered. But go be social. That's probably what I would tell myself, because I feel like I missed a lot of that growing up, because I focused so much on racing and what I wanted to do that I kind of lost track of what life actually was or is. So I do that now. I do go out and socialize and drink and stuff. But I do feel like I missed out on that as a kid because of my career.
Yeah, that's you see it a lot in people. They sometimes let let their career get in the way of their other parts of life. And like I talked about, you have to have that balance of things in your life, because otherwise your career can start. That's where people, not saying like marriages, you see marriages get that like fail because of people being too invested in one or the other. And it's good to be invested in your career, but if you have like a family and stuff, you have to balance all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I didn't do a good job at it as a kid, for sure. Even as a young adult, I was horrible at it. It really messed up like my love life, or whatever you want to call it. I have no kids right now. I don't even have a girlfriend right now, but because I spend so much time, doing what I love and trying to stay on top, that, I don't have time to focus on other things, which like I said, I'm trying to get better at that. That's what I need to get better at.
Yeah. But this leads us into my favorite segment of the podcast, which is Motivation Monday. This is the point in the episode where I allow my guests to give the Roughnecks listeners a little inspirational bump to set the tone for their week as they listen. So what does Kyle Chaney have for Motivation Monday on a Thursday?
Well, man, it's going to be short and sweet. I mean, I'm far from a motivational speaker. I mean, I'm the one that needs all the motivational quotes, but there's one quote, that I pretty much live by. And I think that almost everybody can, whether you're working at McDonald's or, you're a top CEO of some corporate bank. But, my main motto that I pretty much have to go back to every day is winners never quit and quitters never win. It's to never give up. I mean, nobody that's winning or on top, or, nobody that is doing good quits. I mean, once it gets hard, you just got to keep going, keep pushing through. I mean, everybody has hard times. It's just what you learn from your hard times.
Yeah, the thing about that is that can relate to, like you said, McDonald's, but it can also just relate to life in general as well. Like you can't, like you said, you're going to have hard times. That's part of life. And that goes with, it always comes back to the slogan of this podcast, which is grab the bull by the horns. And, I look at it as the bull is life and we're the bull rider, and it's going to knock you down, but you can't just lay there and let it walk all over you. You have to get up, grab the bull by the horns, and take control of your life. And only you can do that. You can't expect everybody else to do it for you. So don't give up when things get hard. You just have to keep pushing. It like relates to the story you told about the tires, where you didn't think you were even going to make it. And then look what happens. You just keep pushing, keep going, and good things can happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I said, I don't have a whole lot, but that's probably one good quote that, can relate to everybody.
But with that, that's a wrap on episode 56 of the Roughnecks podcast. Thank you, Kyle Chaney, for being a guest on this episode. Where can people follow you and your career on social media?
I'm probably most active on Instagram. I don't even know my Instagram handle, Kyle Chaney 191, maybe. I don't know. And
It'll
then
be tagged on our social media,
Yeah,
so
I
if they
don't
want to
know.
find it, they can go see it.
I'm far from a social media person.
I struggle with it, and especially with this podcast, where I'm to the point where I'm hiring somebody to do it for me, so I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about it as much, because it is a lot. Like, once you get busy, it's hard to like, oh, I need to post this, I need to post this. It's just a lot to do.
No, for sure.
But be sure to go give him a follow, and then follow the Roughnecks on social media as well while you're at it. Be sure to check out the fairly new TikTok for some behind the scenes stuff. But until next week, make sure you grab the bull by the horns. Life is hard and is going to walk all over you. Get up. Oh, wow. I just completely messed that up for the first time in 56 episodes. I don't know what I was thinking.
I got you flustered.
I said it perfectly earlier, but now I can't even think it. I don't know what just happened. But life is hard and is going to knock you down just like a bull does to a bull rider. Get up, grab the bull by the horns, and take control of your life. Until next time, Roughnecks out. Thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of the Roughnecks podcast. If you like this show, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss any of our future episodes. Be sure to head over to social media and give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Roughnecks Podcast. And our Twitter is at Roughnecks Pod C1. If you ever have a guest idea or just a question that you want to shoot me, then email me at roughneckspodcast@gmail.com. Don't let that bull of life walk all over you when it knocks you down. Get up, grab the bull by the horns, and take control of your life. Until next week, Roughnecks out.